We continue now at the top of Daf Vav Amud Aleph and Meseches Gittin. This is Gittin Daf 6a. Rav Ashi says, "Afilu shama kan kulmasa v'kan megilta." Even if the shliach he just hears the sound of the quill and the sound of the scroll, that is good enough for him to be able to say b'fanai nechtav v'fanai nechtam. And Rashi explains, "Afilu shama kan kulmasa v'kan megilta tikun hakulmis v'klaf." In other words, the setting up of the quill and of the klaf of the parchment. Shama kishetiknu lishma. He hears when they're setting it up lishma. Kishechotchin also when they cut it, umachlikin also when they smooth it. Velinir, and Rashi says, to me it appears kan kulmasa kol hakulmis kushu kosev. We're talking about the sound that the quill makes when he's actually writing. The kol hayariya, and the sound of the parchment. Shu nishma kamishomer kan kan. It has a sound of kan kan. V'istagarsi kal kulmasa. Some have the gersa instead of kan. They have the gersa of kal, like the voice, the sound. But in any case, Rav Ashi says that's enough to be able to say b'fanei nechta v'fanei nechta. And the Gemara continues, Tanya Kavase de Rav Ashi. We have a brisa that supports Rav Ashi. Hamevi get Medina Sayam. If somebody brings a get from Medina Sayam, afilu hu bebayis v'sofer ba'aliyah, hu ba'aliyah v'sofer bebayis. Even if he's in the house and the sofer's upstairs, or he's upstairs and the sofer's in the house, afilu nichnas v'yotze kolayim kulu. Even if he's coming in and out the whole day, kosher. That's going to be kosher. Hu bebayis v'sofer ba'aliyah. The Gemara says he's in the house and the sofer's upstairs. Haloka chazile, but he doesn't see him. How can he say b'fanei nechtav or b'fanei nechtam? Elalav, rather is it not? Kagon deshama kan kulmasa v'kan megilta. He hears the sounds of the quill and the sounds of the scroll. And the Gemara continues, Amar Mar, the master said, Afilu nichnas v'yotze kolayom kulo kosher. Even if he enters and leaves the entire day, it's kosher. And the Gemara wants to clarify this line, man, who's the one that's going in and out? Ileim shliach. If you're going to say that it's the shliach, so hashta hu bebayis v'sofer ba'aliyah. Now we already said that if he's in the house and the sofer's upstairs, the lo chazile, that he doesn't even see him, amrit kosher, we said it's kosher. Nichnas v'yotze miboy, do we even need to say anything about going in and out? Of course that's kosher. Ella sofer, rather what it means to say is that the sofer is going in and out, but the Gemara says pshita, but that's obvious. Mishum the nichnas v'yotze nefsaline, just because he's going in and out, is that a reason to disqualify the get? And the Gemara says, lo, no, tzricha, it's needed, the nafak l'shuka v'asa, that he goes to the marketplace and he comes, ma'u detema, because what might you have said, inish acharina ashkeche, that he found another individual, v'yamar le, and he told him, kamash malon, so it comes to teach us that we're not concerned with this. Rashi explains, the nafak l'shuka sofer yatsa l'shuk l'makom, sheyesham b'nei adam harbi, the sofer didn't simply leave, he went to an area where there were a lot of people. Ma'u detema inish acharina ashkeche, you might have thought that he found another person, sheshmo kishmo shalzeh, who has the exact same name as this guy, v'yamar leilach tov lo get, and the other guy told him to write a get. Maybe you'll have such a concern, and that's what it's teaching us, that we do not have such a concern. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Itmar, we have the following machlokas amoroim. Bavel. What about when it comes to a get that's written in Bavel? Rav Amar ka Eretz Yisrael Gittin. Rav says Bavel has a halacha, a status like Eretz Yisrael when it comes to Gittin. Ushmuel Amar ka Chutz La'aretz. And Shmuel says that Bavel has a status of Chutz La'aretz. And the Gemara says Lema b'hakam iflagi. Let's say that the machlokas Rav and Shmuel is exactly what we discussed above. The Mar Savar lefishayin bekin l'shma v'hani gemiri. One says the reason why we say b'fanei nechtam is because they're not experts in Medina Hayam in Lishma, and the people of Bavel, they were experts, they were learned. And the other one says it's because there are no Eidim around to be Mekayim, to certify the signatures. And these individuals in Bavel, or these locations of Bavel, it's also not common to have travel back and forth, and therefore there is the same concern in Bavel, and the Shliach does need to say b'fanei nechtam b'fanei nechtam. But the Gemara says, V'tizbra, is that a logical explanation to the Machlokas Rav and Shmuel? HaRabba Islay de Rava, we've already said previously, Rabba agrees with Rava. Everybody agrees to the reason of certification. Ela dekuli alma bina l'kaimo. Rather, everybody agrees there's this requirement, this need for certification, and that's one of the reasons, at least, for b'fanei nechtav or b'fanei nechtam. Rav Savar Kevan Dika Mesifta Mishkach Shchichi. Rav says, since there are yeshivas in Bavel, so travel is common, so there's no issue. You don't have to say b'fanei nechtam, because you'll be able to find witnesses to certify the get. Shmuel Savar Mesifta Begir Sai Hu Tridi, and Shmuel holds the yeshivas, they're busy in their learning, and therefore that will not be a satisfactory solution. And the Gemara continues, Itmar Nami was learned as well. Amar Rabbi Abba, Amar Rav Huna. Rabbi Abba said that Rav Huna said, Asinu atzmeinu beBavel k'Eretz Yisrael leGittin. We treat ourselves here in Bavel like Eretz Yisrael does in regards to Gittin. Mechiyasa Rav leBavel, from the time that Rav came to Bavel. And Rashi explains, Mesifta yeshivos kavuos. In other words, there are established yeshivos in Bavel. Achas besura v'achas benardoi. One's in Surah and one is in Nahardoi. V'holchen talmidim mizu lezu mishar ayoris lehen lilmud Torah. The talmidim go from one yeshiva to the other, and they go from other cities to them to learn Torah. So there's plenty of travel. B'girsayu tridin, but the other one says they're busy with their learning. Ve'in makirin hachasimos, and they're not going to recognize the signatures. And the Gemara says itmar nami, it was learned as well. The time of mishum deshchichi mesiftu, that the reason why Bavel is unique is because you have these yeshivas. Mechi asa Rav leBavel. He said we treat ourselves like Eretz Yisrael from the time that Rav came to Bavel. V'kava yeshiva besura, it means to say that Rav established this yeshiva in Surah with the Shmuel Havai ben Nardoi, and Shmuel was in Nardoi. Avol mei karalo, but before that we didn't treat ourselves like Eretz Yisrael. V'afa gav degmir, even though they were learned in Bavel, the mishagali yechanya leBavel v'achoresh v'amazkirim olo paska Torah mehem, because already from earlier times, as it mentions in Sefer Malachim, already from earlier times they were learned, and so therefore again you see that the issue is the travel, and once the yeshivas were established, travel was no longer an issue. And the Gemara continues, Mesiv Rav Yirmiyah. Rav Yirmiyah asks, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Me'rekem lemizrach v'rekem k'mizrach, me'ashkelon l'doram v'yashkelon k'doram, me'ako l'tzafon v'yako k'tzafon. In our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda said, from Rekem into the east, that's considered Medinas Hayam, and Rekem is included in the east. Rekem itself is Medinas Hayam, and the same thing from Ashkelon to the south, and the same thing from Akko to the north. And so the Gemara asks, V'habavel l'tzvona de Eretz Yisrael kaima, but Bavel, that's considered to be to the north of Eretz Yisrael. T'chsiv, as it's written in the pasuk, V'yomer Hashem Elai mitzafon tiftach hara, talks about the north, and we understand that to be a reference to Bavel when they would travel to Bavel, even though technically Bavel is really not north of Eretz Yisrael, but they would travel through the northern path, so that's considered to be to the north. Utanan, and we learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Meir Omer, Rabbi Meir says, Akko ke'eretz Yisrael Gittin. Akko is like Eretz Yisrael. Akko again is to the north. Akko is like Eretz Yisrael for Gittin. Ve'afilu Rabbi Meir lo kamer elo bi'Akko. And even Rabbi Meir, he only said that by Akko to Mekarva, because that's already close. Aval Bavel de Merachko lo, but Bavel, which is far away, so he wouldn't say that. It seems like Bavel would not be included as Eretz Yisrael. And the Gemara says, "Hu mosiv lo v'hu mefarik lo." He asked the question, and then he answered the question as follows. The same person that asked the question answered the question. Levar mi Bavel. This entire discussion is with the exception of Bavel. We're not talking about Bavel. Bavel is an exception to these rules. And the Gemara continues, Ad hechon hi Bavel, until where is Bavel? Amar Papa says, Ke machlokes liyuchsin, kach machlokes legittin. The same machlokes that we have in terms of yichus, in terms of lineage, that's the same machlokes that's going to apply to Gittin. And Rashi explains, Me'ako litzfono, from Akko to the north, Shalolam, the north of the world, Bavel hasam kaima bein Akko litzafon. Bavel is there, it's between Akko and the north. Levar mi Bavel, with the exception of Bavel, Diika taima lahatira, because when it comes to Bavel, there's a reason to be lenient, there's a reason to be matir. Kemachlokas liyuchsin, so then the Gemara said, the same machlokas that applies by lineage. Beperak asara yuchsin, this is in Perak asara yuchsin in Kiddushin, the kaimalon kol ha'arotzos isa le'eretz Yisrael, ve'eretz Yisrael isa leBavel. It talks over there about the fact that the lineage of Eretz Yisrael is better than other lands, and the lineage of Bavel is even better. When there's a machlokas there, in terms of, again, what are the exact boundaries of Bavel, and so Rav Papa is saying the same machlokas that applies in terms of Yuchsin, that would apply by Gittin as well. Rav Yosef says machlokas liyuchsin, the machlokas over there in Kiddushin, that's only when it comes to lineage. Aval Gittin, but when it comes to Gittin, Divrei Hakol, everybody agrees, ad arba tinyana de gishra. And Rashi explains, Arba Tinyana Arova Shnia means like the second willow, Hasmucha Lagesher, which is near the bridge. That's probably referring to the bridge by the Euphrates River. Others translate this as the second arch that's by that bridge. The Mosef Rashi says, Ad Arba Agam Shalkanim, it's like a swamp of reeds, Va'arav and willows, Shakor and Ushra. Tinyana de Gishra, Shnei Agamim Hayu, there were two swamps over there, Lamata Mehagesher Azeh, Lamata Mizeh. They were below the bridge, one below the other, and so that is the area, that's the boundary line of Bavel. And the Gemara continues, Rav Chisda matzrech me'aktisvan le've'ardashir, u'me've'ardashir la'aktisvan lo matzrech. Rav Chisda, he required that the shliach say b'fanei nechtam if he was delivering from aktisvan to be'ardashir, but from be'ardashir to aktisvan, that was not required. And the Gemara says, Leima kasavar, let us suggest that Rav Chisda holds, Lafisha ein bikin lishma, that the reason to say b'fanai is because they're not experts in lishma. V'hani gemirin, these ones are learned, meaning to say, when you're going from aktisvan to be'ardashir, so then you have to say it, because the people of aktisvan were not learned, but in the other direction, the people of be'ardashir were learned, and maybe that's the distinction. But the Gemara says, V'tizbra, is that a logical explanation? V'ha Rabba islay de Rava, as we said before, Rabba agrees with Rava, everybody agrees that the reason of certification also applies. Ela de kuli alma bein l'kaimo, rather, everybody agrees that there's this need for certification. V'hani kevan da azli l'shukad l'hasam, and these ones, since they go to the marketplace over there, hanach yadi v'chasimas yada dahani, so these ones know those signatures. V'hani b'dahanach lo yadi, but but the other ones don't know the other one's signatures. My time, what's the reason? B'shukayu tridi, they're busy with their marketplaces, and so therefore the knowledge on the signatures only goes in one direction, and that's why only in one direction is there a requirement to say b'fanei nechtav u b'fanei nechtam. And Rashi explains, Vahani de Be'ardashir Azli L'Shukal Aktisvon. The people of Be'ardashir, they go to the marketplace of Aktisvon, that was the bigger city. Umosrin Lahem Sham Edius V'chosman Sham, and they have testimony, they sign over there, B'shtaros, Anshtaros, V'ashtaros Bi'ad B'nei Aktisvon, and these shtaros are in the hands of the people of Aktisvon, Adzman Shani Govim, until the time they're collecting. Lafikach B'nei Aktisvon Makir Chasimis B'nei Ardashir. Therefore, the people of Aktisvon, they recognize the signatures of the people of Ardashir. Hilkach Getchen Nechdam Ba'ardashir V'nishtalech L'Aktisvon. Therefore, if you have a get that's signed in Ardashir and sent over to Aktisvon, Eidim Mitzuyin L'Kaim, there are witnesses around to be Mekayim. Furthermore, the people of Ardashir go there to the marketplace, they can certify. But the people of Ardashir, they don't recognize the signatures of the people of Aktisvon, even though they go there all the time for business, because when they go in the day of the marketplace, they're busy in the marketplace. They're not paying attention in order to recognize the signatures of the people in the city. And the Gemara continues, Rabba bar Avua matzrich me'arsa la'arsa. Rabba bar Avua, he required b'fanei nechtam, if they were taking a get from one side of the public domain to another side of the public domain. Rav Sheshas matzrich mishchuna l'shchuna. Rav Sheshas required it if it was from one set of houses to another set of houses. Rashi says this set of houses is usually 3 houses. V'Rava matzrich ba'osa shchuna. Rava even required it within the same shchuna, within the same neighborhood, so to speak, from one house to another. Even there, the shliach had to say b'fanei nechtam. And the Gemara says, but wasn't Rava the one who said that the reason why we say b'fanei nechtam is because there's no Edom around? Certainly in the same shchuna you would assume that there are Edom around to certify. And the Gemara says to that, Shani b'nei Mechuza denaidi. It was different. Rava was from Mechuza, and the people of Mechuza, they moved around a lot, and so therefore it was difficult to find Edom to certify, and that's why he required b'fanei nechtam or b'fanei nechtam. Rav Chanin mishtoi, Rav Kahana aisi gita. Rav Chanin related that Rav Kahana brought a get. V'lo yadana. Rav Chanin said, I don't know. I don't know if he was bringing it from Surah to Nahardoi, or was it the other direction from Nahardoi to Surah. In any case, Asal Lakame de Rav, in any case he came before Rav. Amar Leini said to him, Tzrichna lememar b'fanei nechtav u'b'fanei nechtam olo tzrichna. Do I need to say b'fanei nechtav u'b'fanei nechtam, or do I not need to say it? Amar Leini said to him, Lo tzrichna, you don't need to say it. And Rashi says, back on the Mechuzah, the Naidi, they move around. Einan mishtoin b'batein shetrudin b'schora. It means they move around, they don't stay in their houses, they're always busy in business. They don't recognize the signatures among them. And then again he said from Surah de Nahardoi, or vice versa, Lo tzricht, you don't need to say b'fanei nechtav or b'fanei nechtam de Bavel ke Eretz Yisrael, because Bavel has a status, it's considered like Eretz Yisrael, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Vav Amud Beis.